Welcome back to your professional diploma in digital marketing and SEO. Today's lesson closes off our link section in this SEO module. In today's lesson, we will look at using tools to check the quality of resource and other web pages, how to find existing broken links, how to increase links with broken link building, and then finally, we'll go through a checklist to help you ensure that all the important steps are covered to maintain a healthy link profile. So our first objective for the day is checking web page authority, and just a reminder on why we need to do this. Firstly, for profile diversity, we know that it is important to have a mix of links from different sources. And then to check low quality sites. Now, low authority is not necessarily the same as low quality. There could be a great new resource that just hasn't had the chance to build up authority yet. And while we need low authority sites in our profile, we don't need low quality ones. And by low quality, here we're talking about user experience, the actual nature of the content, how the website is structured, whether it just seems to be populated with spammy links and spammy comments, those kinds of things. At the end of the last lesson, I showed you some ways to find resource pages. You could enter a few terms into your browser, namely keyword, so the terms or the word that you are looking for, interested in, plus in URL, semicolon, links. Then we have the same plus helpful resources, plus useful resources, and then plus useful links. Now I'm going to take one of these phrases, the top one actually, and show you how it would work. Of the list of those pages that appear, we're going to take some of those and then check their authority. We'll check their authority with both free and paid tools, namely Moz and Ahrefs. Both of these platforms, they do have paid and free options to check authority, with the free tool containing less detailed information. But if you are just starting out, then the free tools should definitely be more than enough. I have copied that first phrase over and I'm going to paste it into my search bar. I'm going to replace keyword with small business strategy and we will see what comes up. Okay, here we have about 13,100 results. So you can see there are many options to choose from. Now, just taking a kind of cursory glance at these, I'm just going to copy a few of them over so that we can check their authority. Let us copy this one, copy the address. Then you can open up a program like Notepad, paste that in there, minimize, and then get your next one. Let's say, okay, this is Forbes.com. That'll be interesting. They'll be very high authority. So let's just take those two. So now what we would do is we will take these URLs and use our different tools to check their authority. As I mentioned, the two tools that I'm about to take you through are fine for a small website or someone just starting out. They're absolutely perfect for that purpose. We're first going to look at Ahrefs and then we'll look at Moz. This here is Ahrefs. So I'm just going to take one of the URLs, this one, copy that over, paste it into this bar right here, and then check website authority. And here the results are populating. Okay, so this URL has a very low domain rating of 4.7. The scale is from 0 to 100, so that is very low. We can see at the bottom there are 56 linking websites as well as 357 backlinks. So it would be very easy initially to just write this off as a terrible site, and maybe it is. It does require more investigation. You can see here that we can't see all of the backlinks because it is the free tool. That would be the difference when it comes to Ahrefs. You get a lot more detailed information. So overall, I wouldn't recommend this page as something to try and get a link from. However, if you notice that all the other pages you're looking at have similar domain ratings, then it is worth further investigation and perhaps it is worth a link. Remember, this is really the first step in terms of determining which sites that you want to get links from. If we go to moz.com and their link explorer, then you can do the same thing. You would copy over the URL. Now, this one requires you to create an account. Once you click this button, you can see here, you can create an account, and then you can access 10 link queries and 50 rows of data per query every month. So that is the kind of limitation of the free account. I'm not going to create one now, but as you can see, the process would be very, very similar. Here we have the Ahrefs account. I have logged into it and I'm on the Site Explorer section. So again, here on the top is where you could paste a URL, search for that. This is Forbes.com. So the domain rating, as you can see, is 93. So it's an incredibly high authority site. No surprise there. However, this URL in particular, it has a UR rating, which is the URL rating, showing the strength of the page's link profile on this particular page. It's actually quite low. However, given the fact that it is a very high domain, it has a very high domain rating, I wouldn't let that put me off, so to speak. You would have seen just now that Ahrefs provides the domain authority of the URL you specify. It would have been in one of the screens before. But what if you don't know which websites will be relevant to you and what their authority is? Here is where Ahrefs Content Explorer tool can be very handy. So let's jump back into it. This is the Content Explorer section of Ahrefs. And here I'm going to enter a topic. If we see at the top here, it says, search for any word or phrase and get relevant pages with useful SEO and social metrics. So if we use the same keywords or phrase that I used earlier, small business strategy. And here are the results. You can see here there are 43,392 pages, but note that they aren't necessarily all from separate domains. If we were to do that, then we would just turn this on, and then we can see that it's gone down to 24,367 pages. However, that is still a lot of pages to look at and go through. Of course, you won't be going through each one. What we're seeing here is the domain rating for each of these domains, then the number of referring domains, the organic traffic. This is in terms of monthly organic traffic. The traffic value, this is just an estimation. But then let's say we scroll down and for some reason we like the look of this website. If we just select this arrow, we can see even more information. Now, as much as this domain has a high domain rating, we can see that the traffic, the amount of traffic is actually very low. This is a very new page. It was only created recently, but still the traffic is very low. If we close this off and then choose a different web page, let's just take this top one. It should be different. And here we have more information. So this site has a domain rating of 93. There are 136 referral domains. The traffic is quite low, but not as low as the previous site. And here we have, it's pretty steady over time. There was a bit of a dip here in terms of organic traffic. Maybe there was a change in an algorithm, or perhaps there was an error. Social as well is pretty consistent. So this is looking like quite a good page. We can see here it's from Forbes.com. Again, we know that that is a very good site. You can also see the organic keywords that this page ranks for. The top one being how to increase sales. And this isn't necessarily to do with small business. It's quite broad. But overall, we can see that the queries are around small businesses. We can also see which domains are referring this link, with the top one being inkhive.com in terms of domain authority. We can also see the backlinks, we have the referring page. So this is the other domain that is linking to Forbes.com. And then here we have the anchor and the backlink that has been used. This is just interesting to get an idea of what is currently being linked, how it's being linked, which will possibly inform your strategy when you're trying to get in touch with this domain. What is also interesting to note, and I will come back to it when we look at broken link building, is on the right here you can see the top authors, and we have the names and surnames of these authors. Now this will come in handy when we're trying to get in touch with these different websites to hopefully get them to link to our website. Now, if you don't have access to a paid tool like Ahrefs, you can do this manually, just like we did when we're looking at resource pages. You could search using your particular keywords. So again, let's look at small business strategy. You could then visit these pages. Let's just have a look at this one. You could either visit this page and then take the URL, or just copy the URL directly from the search results. But I'm just going to copy it here and then go over to one of the free tools. I must say that these are not the only free tools. Do your research. There are many others. And for this one, we can see there's a domain rating of 92. I think having a look at the free version versus the paid version, you can very clearly see how much more information you get from the paid tool. However, like I said, this is enough, at least in the beginning when you're doing your research. So Inc.com, very high authority. You can see they have over 31 million backlinks. So this would probably be a tough one to crack if we are looking to get our content linked to on that site. After going through this process, you should have a healthy list of sites with potential. You should visit each page, look at the other links that it has, and check the overall user friendliness. Basically, you want to ensure that there's nothing on the site you don't want to associate your site with. Once you have found the list of pages which would make sense to link to, you would need to ensure that you have a page or content that fits in with the target page. If it is just a kind of generic submission, ideally you would have a deep link over a main page like the home page. Finally, you would need to determine how you can contact that page or domain. With resource pages, there will often be a contact or submit option directly on the site, but for other web pages, you would need to find another way. One of those ways is to reach out to them via email, and this is literally called email outreach. Why something like this is necessary is because not all resource pages are easy to submit to. They won't just add you to their site because you sent a submission. Managers of resource pages with higher than average authority are much more selective about the links on their site, and therefore pitching a link to the resource page requires more time and effort. And the thing is, what if they aren't resource pages? Well, again, the website won't just accept every link request. The domain would rightly so be protective of its equity, its link profile, and overall authority. Email outreach can be done manually, but it won't scale well as you can't send more than a few emails an hour. Looking at email tools with templates and personalization will become necessary when things get bigger, so to speak. Of course, though, you need to know their email address, right? There are both free and paid tools to get contact details for requesting backlinks, and I will show you an example just now. Manual emails take time, of course, as you often won't be able to send a generic email to all your prospects. It has to be crafted for that specific domain. We're going to look at a tool called Hunter, which is recommended by top SEOs such as Brian Dean from Backlinko. This is Hunter, and there is a free option available with 50 requests a month. Email campaigns through Gmail are also available with this free option, so I do recommend checking it out. I have already created an account, you can see here. I know that cold emailing seems outdated, but the thing is it still works, especially when done well. So let's say that you have selected Salesforce as a company you would like to approach. Salesforce is a CRM tool, so customer relationship management tool, managing all aspects of that, including marketing and sales, just to give you a bit of background on that business. So we would say salesforce.com. You would need to check the domain to make sure it's correct, but we can already see here there are quite a few results. And here are the contacts. It says at the top here that the most common pattern with the email addresses is the first letter of the first name, the last name, and then at salesforce.com. So if you knew the name and surname of someone at Salesforce but couldn't find their email address, then chances are it will follow this pattern or convention. There are many results here. Some include the title, so what they actually do at the company, whereas others don't. First prize would be to find someone who is in marketing, development, sales, SEO. You wouldn't necessarily email the executive vice president, for example, but perhaps you would try the media contact. There is also a phone number listed. If we scroll up again, there is the vice president services, a developer evangelist, all these different job titles. To make this easier, you can just export this list in a CSV format. So essentially it will work in Excel. And also from here, you can save the details, or if you have linked your Gmail account, we can see I haven't done that. You can connect that to send emails and campaigns with Hunter. So this would link directly to your email and you could take it from there. So as I mentioned, this is a free plan. There are more options when it comes to the paid version. You can do bulk checking, you can verify the different email addresses, you can find specific people's contact details, you can run more complex campaigns. But again, if you're just starting out, this is a great resource. Another way to find contact details is to search companies and names, if you know them, in social media. Many people include their contact details on LinkedIn, and you also have the option to send an in-mail, so basically a direct message, if you are a premium member. Other social media channels could be a bit trickier, and in many cases you would need to know a contact's name, but messaging the business profile could be successful in terms of whoever is managing that profile giving you a contact. So let's get to the email. As I've said before, it's not enough to send a generic email with a link request. A tried and tested method is to do the following. You need to start with an observation and a compliment. Refer to the page or the section that you are interested in. And then briefly explain the value of your content and how it will benefit the website. I will take you through an example of this once we've looked at broken link building, which is coming up now. So, as I've just said, our third objective for today is learning about broken link building. Of course, the first thing that we need to do is find broken links. Broken links are links that are no longer working. For example, a 404 or 410 error. Perhaps the target page of that link has changed domains, they've moved the content, etc. But the why, it doesn't really matter. This is your opportunity to get your content in there. It is very easy to find broken links. There are multiple free tools. Some examples of these, they are brokenlinkcheck.com, drlinkcheck.com, hrefs.com, which is part of a free feature. And then there is a Chrome extension called Check My Links. And this is where you would visit the website that you want to so-called analyze, and then select the extension, so the Chrome extension on the top right of the browser. And this is where most extensions live. This is an example of brokenlinkcheck.com. The site might not look pretty, but it serves its purpose. You would add the main domain that you're wanting to target, and then you would see something like this. On the left here, I've blocked out the URLs as it's actually a student's website that was sent through to me, but you would see a list of the URLs that are no longer working. Then next to that, you can see the link text that's been used. In this case, some of it is going against the recommendations, the things that we have gone through. Remember that you shouldn't be using or linking words like here. then you can see the source page of that URL and the server response code, which in this case is all 404. So let's say that this website is one you would like to receive a link from. You would go through these broken links, trying to find where you can contribute your content that is both relevant to you and the targeted website. I would recommend that you check out the other free tools as well. All of these links that we discuss in the lesson will be included in that checklist that we go through at the end. And you can get detailed broken link information from Ahrefs, the paid version. The free version returns results, but there's a limit to the number of broken links that you can view. So we're just going to jump back into Ahrefs again. You can get detailed broken link information from Ahrefs, the paid version. The free version returns results, but there's a limit to the broken links that you can view. There are two ways to do this in Ahrefs. First, if you don't have a specific domain in mind, you can go back to the Content Explorer, which is where we are now, and search keywords. So let's search for something. I'm going to use our next lesson's topic, which is SEO for local business. So let us put that in there and search. You can also specify different locations, different languages. So this is a very broad overview. You can definitely narrow it down. Now, if you look at the top here, you can see live and broken. Now, if we just select that and say only broken. Now, amazingly, there are only 19 pages with broken links around this topic. So these are the options that you would have to look at and then to contact to replace those broken links with your content. Just because these don't actually have a lot of traffic, so aren't necessarily worth contacting, let us just change the search and look at something else a bit broader, local SEO. Okay, now we have 184 pages. Again, you can narrow this down even further. You can choose to select, perhaps you want to select something that was published quite recently. And again, if we look at the right here, I mean, this is referring to all the pages, but if we could drill down onto a specific page to find the top authors, and this would be a great thing to put into a tool like Hunter and then hopefully find their contact details. Let's try another search term. Let's say organic marketing. And I'm going to say that I would like it to have been published in the last 12 months, just because of the freshness and the chance to increase or see an increase in that organic traffic, which we're not seeing at the moment. But we can also see that this organic traffic is looking at the last 6 months. You can look at the last 3 years, but only if you are on the advanced Ahrefs plan, which is very expensive and isn't really required for anyone but those top SEOs that are managing multiple sites and very actively working on rankings. If we take this top result here and then we go over to the referring domains, selecting that gives you an option to get in touch with these 9 other sites that are linking to this page. You could let them know that this link is also broken and it could be replaced with your content. Now, once you have your list of broken links, you need to know what the content was when it wasn't broken. To do this, you can visit archive.org. Now, this is a so-called library of over 4 billion web pages on the internet with a cached or older version of a web page stored. So inserting the broken link into their Wayback Machine, which you can see at the top, will show you the original article and content. And this is how you would further determine if you have content that can fit the website you are targeting. You should use the old content as a base for your replacement content, but don't copy it, of course. The idea is to improve and update it. To do this, of course, you need the capacity and the expertise. If your content is not covering the information from the old link or not closely related, it is not the best fit, and then you need to look for something else. For example, let's say the old article was about local SEO for restaurants. You can't then replace that link with local SEO for car dealerships. It's just not a fit. The website wouldn't accept something like that. Now, the next steps here would be, again, to locate the most relevant contact person using the website, email tools, or perhaps your own network. Sometimes you won't get the most relevant contact, but it's still a contact. You would then need to work your way up through the ranks. You would then prepare your email, remembering to provide value. This is so important. In the context of broken link building, you could make them aware of all the broken links on their website, not just the one that you want to replace. If you're requesting a new link, then you'd need to sell the content. How will it benefit the website and its users? But before we get into an example, we need to talk about subject lines. You would need to test different subject lines if sending out quite a large volume of emails, and then monitor the response rate. Not every email will be replied to, and not every link will be accepted. You just need to keep going. When looking at subject lines, it's a good idea to have a look at the website and see how they write their headlines. Use this as a template, so to speak, for your subject line. Then you need to be specific. What do you want and what topic is being covered in your content? You should also avoid phrases like, you will love this, or don't miss this opportunity, etc. These are overused in sales and clickbait emails, and they just don't work anymore. Consider including the format of your content, for example, an infographic. Research by Search Engine Land shows that including the format increases open rates, which is what you're looking for. You want more people to open your email. This is an example of an email which is inspired by Backlinko's process. My subject line is your website link update, local SEO, and then article plus infographic, as that is the format. Just note that this is completely made up. It's not real, but just for the purposes of showing you. Then we start with an observation and a compliment. So in this case, I say that I've read an article on the website and have appreciated a specific thing about it to confirm that I actually did read it. Then I give something of value, a list of the links that no longer work. I've also added comments to show that I've actually looked at what these links contained, and then I'm trying to assist them with finding alternative content, not just pushing my own. Then I introduce my content, including the format and what it is about. I add which broken link it would be a good fit for and leave the decision with him on whether to update it. This takes quite a bit of work, especially if you're looking into each link, which is why it is hard to scale. And if no response is received, if you follow up a week later, that's fine. But then if you still don't get a response, I recommend just moving on. A big congratulations. You have now completed 5 lessons in Module 2 of your professional diploma in digital marketing. I hope you have had a great time so far and have learnt some valuable new skills and information. I will see you very soon. Bye.